Okay, so I want to talk about running into this thing where these different companies will and websites will tell you if a company is black owned or woman owned. Sometimes it's like more rarely veteran owned or Latino owned. I don't care. What's your point? Why are we infantilizing black identified people? Why are we coddling women cultists? This makes no sense. You guys are like, we can do whatever, we can do whatever we want. So why are we they telling us that this is a woman owned company, black owned company? What's your point? Why? So because it's like there was a lower representation of black and women owned companies. Okay, we'll make them. Like this is just having this energy of like how they approach tipping, especially in the US. It's like we're always pressured to tip, 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 and that type of thing. Where we have to subsidize a corrupt system. We have to subsidize bad choices. Okay, why don't you just get paid for your job? Like we don't have to tip. You need to ask for a wage that reflects your job, and they're doing the same thing with us. They're putting it on us to like it's not our jobs to support servers. It's the employee's job, and it's the server's job to advocate for themselves. They're putting it on us to sort of lift men and women, but there's nothing to lift. Black identified people had less business ownership because of they choose not to open businesses because they don't open businesses. I know you guys are going to pull out that rusty excuse. They were denied loans from like 50, 70, 70 years ago. Can you stop using that? They don't, there was lower black business ownership because black identified people make either poor choices or they didn't open businesses. So you want us to coddle and artificially support black identified businesses? You're infantilizing black and identified, but like, does black mean special needs at this point? Does women mean special needs? Like, it's like a synonym. Like, what do you mean black owned businesses? If you want to start a business, open a business, and it doesn't even make sense. It's like if they opened a business, we would support the business because it's not like we know what appearance owns the business. You walk into a business, you don't know who owns it. If it's a good business, we'll buy something. If it was good, we'll go back. So what do you mean support black owned businesses? It's like these liberal virtue signatures that are trying to mask, like you guys know that the system is rigged in your favor, so you are just this is like easy signaling and deflecting. You're using black identified people as sort of virtue signaling props. Okay, because it makes no sense. um and it's like the same thing with women. So women have less business ownership. It's because they choose to be stay-at-home parents. It's because they chose not to open businesses. What is there's this vast democration that there I wouldn't be surprised if there's some small biases, but not in this overreaching way where it would be where you need to pressure us to shop at women-owned businesses. Again, we don't know what sex a person the sex of a person who owns a business, and there's nothing happening. This like reminds me of like they did a documentary like lesbian bars are closing. They're always talking about lesbian bars are closing. That's not a conspiracy. Nothing's happening. Lesbian bars were closing because lesbian didn't want to stop going to lesbian bars. It's like making this something out of nothing. And then the worst part of it, it makes no sense. It's so discriminatory and biased and casteist. So you're elevating these black identified businesses, saying they're black owned businesses. That's not a good enough sort of factor or identifier. Okay, first it's offensive because you're saying like people are inherent genetically right. Black implies genetics, so you're saying we're like inherently poor, we're inherently needy, we're inherently oppressed and exploited. It makes no sense. Like people are like saying you say that it's fundamental to them. You're saying it's fundamental. You register black identified people as these like it's a species of poor people, a poor helpless people, because it's like there's white identified people who like say they grew up in the South, they grew up in some poor Appalachian town, abusive parents, drunk abusive parents, struggled to school, were picked on because of their parents, struggled through school, went to trade school, got a job, saved up their money for decades to open a business, were discriminated because of their southern accent or appearance, finally opened a business, but there's not a white owned business. But then there's black identified people who are having that designation, this traffic being diverted to them. People are saying pressuring you to shop at their business. There's black identified people who come from a legacy of rich black identified people because there's been rich black identified people since forever. Grandparent, great grandparent was rich, grandparent was rich, parent was rich. They were born into wealth, beautiful, coasted through reality. Yes, had issues with discrimination, just like everybody does. Even sometimes it's earned. Coasted through them. Everything handed to them. Marries a rich basketball player. One day it's like, I wanted to start a business. And they, you know, take out, through their trust fund, get some money from their partner, and then open a business and it's labeled black owned business, black vegan restaurant. It makes no sense. Black is not it doesn't signify anything like that anymore. There's there's black identified billionaires. There's hundreds of black identified millionaires. There's millions, tens of millions of black identified people with higher incomes. Why are you saying black owned business? And it's the same thing with the woman. That could be anyone, anything. Came from riches, uh, coasted through life. Why are you saying women own business? Then there's a man who did that same sort of hardship, hard work ethic, everything against them, did sacrifice everything to open this business, but it's not saying man owned business because some other men were successful because of the societal structure that everyone supports. Like, what item? I'm not getting this. There's nothing. Women are not oppressed. They're 50% of the population. They can't be oppressed. Black identified people aren't oppressed. They're in all sectors of life. And those black identified people who are poor because of poor choices. There's tens of millions of poor white identified people. Dozens of white identified people get shot by cops every single year. What are you talking about? Is it the peaceful brutality card? They don't. Black identified people commit a disproportionate amount of crime, which is why they die by cops more. Like what? And then it's even more sick because it's like then a lot of black identified people are just bad people, very bad people, robbing, mugging, stealing, backstabbing, toxic, rude, horrible. Not because they're black identified, because people are. But then you're acting like, but then you're elevating by saying you're by saying own business, you're including them. And it's the same thing with women. Nothing's stopping. It's like just this is getting irritating. We're paid less. Ask for a raise. Like women, we're paid less. Ask for a raise. Like what is this manufactured oppression? Start a business. Nothing's impeding you from starting a business. Yes, there's this sort of uh, layover or rollover effect from when they're that these institutions were more discriminatory and this and that, which is why they're so established. But there's no conspiracy here. Men, most women choose to stay at home. Like you guys are just like distorting information. Yes, there's less women who own businesses. By nothing that's impeding them or blocking them, they choose to be stay at home parents. They're menace. They worship men. Like you women cultists are just getting irritating. You support patriarchy. Don't shop at that business then. I'm not shopping at a woman owned business. I'm not shopping at a black owned business. I'm definitely if you accept that designation, then I'm going to avoid you. Your caste is black perks, black privilege, women privilege. And it's the same with Latino. Like you guys want scraps too, you want handouts too, you want to be treated like an infantilized dependent too. And veterans definitely not. Why are we why are we tracking adult human males? There hasn't been an ethical or moral or needed war since World War II. Like you, but businesses are becoming very suspicious promoting veterans. We massacred people in Vietnam. We lied about weapons of mass destruction. Afghanistan was a disaster. We killed 200,000 civilians in Iraq, but support veterans whose PSD is only permanent for them, but we're not going to track survivors of mass and school shootings or people who saw their people's head blown off in Chicago. I don't care about veterans as if they're some higher above caste than us. And then it's like the label, even people like most of you sit at safe bases eating fast food and watching Netflix and having orgies and doing menial jobs. Most of you. You don't even see, like, why does the designation veteran apply to people who didn't even see warfare? You were a cook in Hawaii, but now we're going to track you for homelessness for your whole life. And you got an allowance to go to college, and you didn't have to take tests to get into college, and you were basically handed a business, and now they're designating it's a veteran-owned business. I don't care. How many people did you massacre in Iraq? The hell? 1 trillion in Afghanistan. Let's come and good job. No wonder we're a sick, broken country. None of this makes sense.